Okay, so Conrad, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Yeah. How you doing?
Yeah, doing very well, mate. And
Okay, nice.
so, you're in Sweden, aren't you?
Oh no, I'm in Austria.
In Austria,
I'm in
that's right.
Austria. Yes.
Austria, yeah. And you're a long-term Awake and Brave viewer.
Yes, I am, sure. I think
And
for like two years or more. I don't know.
yeah, okay, brilliant. And so we've been in touch, over that period of time. And it turns out that you have a Bitcoin channel. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I started, I think, about a year ago. I took a break of almost half a year because of studying and so on, and I'm now back again, doing videos on a regular basis, talking, of course, about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency in general, and yeah, mostly on a technical basis. Yes.
Which is mostly too technical for most of us, especially me.
Yes.
And
Sometimes,
so
yeah.
I looked at your channel and you're speaking about graphs and trends and whatever you speak about. And it didn't mean a lot to me because I haven't looked into it. It's not an interest of mine. And it wouldn't be probably if it wasn't for the fact that two or three people have sent me Bitcoin. And so I had like 175 pounds Bitcoin, and so I thought, well, um, let's see if I can, look into this and see if I can place it in the right um, department. I.e., there's lots of cryptocurrencies out there, and so mine was in
Yes.
Bitcoin. Someone recommended Tezos to me. Apparently, by the way, Tezos have gone up by 20%. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I'm not sure whether Bitcoin has. Um, we spoke a week ago, and we was speculating what the trend's going to be, and so I
Yes.
I came out of Tesos and I put it back into Bitcoin, and
Hmm.
so I don't know whether Bitcoin has risen along with Tesos or whether it stayed the same. But before we get into
Yeah.
that, um, so what I did then, when I thought, well, people have given me £175, so I put another 150 quid to it, so like £300. I thought I'll play with that and see what happens. And so I was saying to you last week that in relation to the New World Order and the vision of the world as far as they're concerned, we're going to have a one world currency. And of course, it's going to be a cryptocurrency. And so I thought, well, it seems to me what they're doing now is that they are forcing the world into a world recession. And so massive inflation is probably going to be a result of what is happening now. Because
Yes.
if it goes along much longer, well, I mean, each week and month goes by, each country loses billions in commerce, and this is unsustainable. And so we're going to have hyperinflation. The currencies are going to be worth less. And then it seems to me that our masters are going to propose a wonderful resolution to this. And they're going to go, well, we've got this cryptocurrency. And so we're going to introduce this now. And, you know, it will be easy for trading because there's no rate exchanges and there's no unfamiliarity. It's all the same. And so, in view of that, I think it's the way forward to start looking at cryptocurrencies. And this is why I decided that it'd be a good idea for us. And I asked you if you wanted to partake in a public discussion to see if we can. Well, I'd pick your brains about it, and I'm the dummy here, so I'll just ask you. I've got a few hundred quid to play with, and so we're just having a look at that really and having a play. And so,
Yeah.
what has the trend been then over this past week or 10 days since we spoke last? Has there been any
Yeah.
difference in Bitcoin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It has been. So the last time we talked, I think it was around 6,200, and now we are up to 7,200. So $1,000 increase,
Wow.
about 12%.
Hmm.
So because you asked if it has increased alongside with Tesla's, it has, not as strongly, but it definitely has. So yes, my outlook was right, more or less, for now. Yeah.
So I would have made on a £300 investment about £36.
Ish. Yes. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and okay, well that's not bad in a week.
It ain't bad. No, definitely not. Sure.
Yeah, and so what we're going to do then, this chat, we're going to have a look at some figures, maybe share a screen and see what
Hmm.
the trends are, see what other cryptocurrencies are out there, see how they've been performing in this last, say, like 2 years, and maybe we could do like, I don't know, when did cryptocurrency first come about?
I think Bitcoin started trading in 2009, similar to the financial crisis of 2008 and 9. That was like the birth time of Bitcoin and also the reason for it.
Yeah, so last week when we looked at the charts, it seemed that over this last couple of years, Bitcoin had pretty well stayed pretty even. You know, you get peaks and
Yes.
troughs, but the
Mhm.
trend was even. And we were speaking about the potential lack of confidence in currency. And because we are very restricted to how much gold we can buy, because the masters don't like us to have gold, then the next opportunity for us is cryptocurrency. So I was speculating that more people would be invested in cryptocurrency, sort of envisioning the decline of their respective currency. And so I said on the premise of that, then I would probably make a further investment to go up to £1,000, and that would be my cap. I would
Mhm.
play around with that. And so if we have a look at the trends then and, see what's going on.
Yeah, I do have something prepared on my
Brilliant.
screen, so I can share screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. I think it's okay.
The thing is about cryptocurrency, it's not like any other investment that you'd make. It can go wild, and
Okay, do you see this?
yeah,
Good. Yeah.
it can go
Talk.
wild,
Yeah.
it can go
Yeah.
wildly
Go
up,
on.
and it can go wildly down.
Hmm.
Now, in the
Yes.
middle there's a big downturn, um, which was a bit spooky for some
Yeah,
people. But if they
right here.
hung on to their Bitcoin, then they would have um, retained the value of it over time. But if they sold in that dip there, then they would have lost money. If they got scared, you see, if they got scared and
Yes.
thought, I'm bailing out of this, then they would have lost money. And so it doesn't really pay to have any knee-jerk reactions in relation to fear with this sort of thing. You got to be in it for the distance, haven't you, really?
Yes, I started investing actually around this time here at the highs. And then I realized, of course, that I made a mistake. I got out and then I watched it go down even more to around 6,000 here, right here in this area, from 7 to 6 again, and so on, bouncing around. And then, it dropped pretty hard and rose as hard after that as well. Yeah.
So
So
what's the Bitcoin priced at today?
so as you can see right here on the right hand side, it's $7,260 ish currently.
Yeah.
So as you can see, it's pretty much in the middle of this whole range from 20,000 down to 3,000 ish about. Yeah,
So it took a 50% downfall.
pretty
Uh,
much.
over what period of time was that from the height to the lowest?
From the height, it was in December 2017 down to 1 year actually, until it made its low. And now we are again 1.5 years after lows. So
And so
whole
what
time,
period were those all-time lows there, or the recent lows? When was that?
recent lows, and now we're around early March.
Early March. And so what's the bit in the dip there in the middle? What period of time was that?
You mean around here?
Yeah.
Yeah, from December 2018 to January 2019.
Right.
So
Okay. So about a
4
year
months.
ago then, the shit
Yes.
hit the fan. What was that about? Do you remember?
Uh, well, I think it's mostly regarding to technical analysis. There, of course, I mean, people talk about Bitcoin all the time, and why it, of course, could fail, and why it is also potentially a scam, like some people tell you. Of course, I don't think that is true. And yeah, I mean, you can see it had a very strong base around this line here, around 6,000. And once it moved beyond this base, it moved very rapidly and very, very fast. So I think that is the main reason for the sharp drop here.
And so from the beginning, right
Hmm.
down at the bottom left-hand side of the screen there,
Yeah.
to the height, what
Hmm.
sort of percentage increase is that?
Yes, we can draw a tool, here from the bottom of $200
Yeah.
up to $20,000, about 10,000 per percent. So
Wow.
100x gain.
And so there was an enormous amount of money to be earned there, and lots of people,
Of course.
would have cleaned up a lot of money. And so,
Yes.
investing in the Bitcoin then, or whatever cryptocurrency, whenever you want to sell, then you just cash in for whatever currency you want, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, um, i- if you can, just enlighten us as to if I, for instance, invested £100 at the bottom of the scale, what would that have been worth at the height of it?
At the height, I mean, 1,000 down here would be, I think, 100,000. I think so.
Wow. So look at the potential in this. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Of course. Of course.
You know,
Uh,
£100,000 in what period? A 2-year period or something like that?
yes, 3 years, 2.5 years, two and a
Right,
half
two
years.
and a
Yes.
half years. This is as much as anyone would make on a property within, say, like a 10-year span of decent increases in property
Yeah.
value. And so if you can make it, for, a tiny investment, it really is incredible. And so, I mean, I think that, naturally, there's always a lot of potential. Well, you see, look, for an investment, say, like of £1,000 to be worth £100,000, well, the potential is enormous, and the loss is small, relatively, isn't it? And and
Yes.
and so I think anybody with a little bit of spare cash that they wouldn't cry too profusely over if they lost it would be wise to invest in whatever cryptocurrency they desired to. And so looking at it here, then we've been steady for a year and a half or 2 years, and there has been a little bit of a drop
Yes.
last
Recently, yeah.
month,
Hmm.
and then it's rose back up again.
Pretty strongly. Yes. True.
Yeah, and so I mean the fluctuations, they seem to be very knee-jerk, reactionary. When it can
Yes.
drop, plummet, say like I don't know what sort of percentage is that, 20% or something.
So the recent drop, of course, is related to coronavirus and global uncertainty.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the economy in general. So people just needed cash and panicked in all markets.
yeah,
So of course, it also happens in crypto. That is no surprise in my opinion. But it was very, very dramatic actually. And this is one day. This red stick here is one day. And if I draw this tool, then it's about 50% dropping in one day.
Right. And so would that tying with the downturn in global shares in sort of many respects, because the stock
Yeah.
exchange took a kicking, didn't it?
Yes, it
And
did.
like you say, it always does. As soon as there's anything that makes us a little bit insecure, then lots of people panic. And so for instance, if people who work in the stock exchange, they'll be
Hmm.
very familiar with these sorts of what do you call them, glips or glitches,
Drops,
or
drops,
blips, what drops. Okay, so
drops. Yeah.
if people will be looking out for this, and if something drops in one day like that, then lots of people are selling. Well, that's the time to buy, isn't it? Because people would be well aware of people who are not in this as a business. Then they get a little bit knee jerky and they sell, sell, sell. Well, so that's the time to buy, and then you just watch it raise up
Yes.
again, like it has done within a few weeks, and then people would have cleaned up depending on how much they invested.
Yeah.
And so where did I go in? Did I go in just before the drop, or was I down at the drop?
No, you were actually right here on this level, 6,200.
Right.
So I remember we bought right here. It was pretty much in the middle of this whole range for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what we spoke about last time is we both had an agreement on that we think that it's going to be going up at some stage, whether it goes down again
Yeah.
here and there. But I think just, I mean, not knowing anything about this. This is for my viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know anything about this. I don't follow world markets or cryptocurrencies at all. But I just use my rational application as to the human mind, how insecure they're going to be at times like this, particularly in view of the fact that all of our countries cannot keep throwing an endless amount of money to save our economy. That money's got to come from somewhere. And then, if you see what they're doing is they're loaning trillions and billions, to companies and personal loans and this, that, and the other. Well, that money will be loaned at a small rate of interest over a long period of time, because they couldn't expect to get it in anything like as rapidly as they gave it out. So maybe they'll want to drag it back in over the next 10 years, but during that 10 years then the countries are going to be struggling because they've got to get that revenue back. And people are going to be working themselves out of debt, and so they're not going to be really wanting to invest in anything much because of the debt that they have found themselves in. And so our currencies across the world are going to be devalued, and the insecurity is going to be quite strong in currencies. And so I think people with a little bit of knowledge in finances would be opting to go into something more stable rather than the dollar. The dollar, I mean, people have been uh, anticipating the crash of the dollar for the last 20 years, as far as I can remember. As well as the world economy. Everybody is predicting a world economy, and they have been, and it's been amazing, really, because we've seen all these gurus in the financial realm predicting next year the crashes, or 2 years the crashes. It can't
Doom
last
and
any
doomers,
longer.
you call them. Yes. Yes.
And then they show you all these figures, and they go, it absolutely's got to happen, and it doesn't happen. And
Yeah, it
so
doesn't
if
happen.
the most brilliantest brains in the economic world can't work it out, then nobody can. But one thing's for sure, it seems that this incessant printing of money based on nothing can't go on forever, because the whole
Can't go.
premise of
Yes.
it is it's printed by a private company like the Federal Reserve, and it's lent to countries with interest. The interest goes up and up and up and up and up, and the whole world is more and more and more and more and more in debt. At some stage, that bubble's got to burst, and when that does, the currencies aren't worth anything, and so something has to have value then. And so then all of a sudden, seems to me that it's going to be cryptocurrency which has the value, because the cryptocurrency isn't dependent on any nation's wealth, like America, the dollar. Of course, the economy of America is, obviously related to the value of their dollar. And so if their economy gets into trouble, for instance, if this virus goes on for 2 months, 3 months, something like this, then the chances are there's going to be civil unrest or unrest. And when there's civil unrest, then of course it's going to cost billions, and the economy is going to be absolutely on the floor because everyone's going to be petrified and that they're not going to be functioning properly. And so therefore their currency is going to crash. And so if America crashes, then many other countries around will crash because they're highly dependent on the dollar. And so it seems to me that then maybe the euro, will raise up astronomically against it. Maybe the yen,
maybe.
yeah, or maybe the whole world's currencies will take a downturn. So
Yeah, I think
what do
that
you
is more
think
likely,
about this?
actually. Yes.
Yeah. So what's your
Yeah.
synopsis on this? How do you think? Do you think it's any different to what I've just said, or you think it's pretty in line?
I do agree, of course. Yeah, you outlined the economically the economical yeah um yeah, sorry, I'm a bit stuttery today. So you outlined it very, very nicely, in my opinion. I almost couldn't agree more, especially regarding fiat money and printing of money, the worldwide currency, especially. Yeah, I do agree, of course. And just adding to this thought, um, no fiat money being money which is printed by the economy, uh, b- 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 excuse me,
Ba 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 ba
ba-
ran.
yeah, and from the government, basically. Uh, so no money ever has existed for longer than, I think, for 40 years, and we are now around 48 years on the dollar. So I mean, sometime it's going to go down, and I think because this is on a global basis, this is going maybe even a bit longer, but in some time it is going to crash. Yes.
Mm. And so, when we look back over the 2.5 years that's depicted on this graph, then we can see it's pretty flatlined, really, and that seems to indicate a reasonable level of confidence. Um, at least, when it goes down beyond a certain point, then it comes up again, and it goes down, and it touches a certain point, and then it comes up again, and it goes down below it. As long as it's
Yeah.
weaving in and out, like some sort of wave function over the mean, then I think that's perfectly normal. But when it starts to drop drastically and raise drastically, then of course there's a sporadic reaction to the market. But what I would like to see is it starting to raise up slowly but consistently, because that's
Yes,
going to give it
consistently.
much more
Yeah.
clout and confidence,
Hmm.
rather
I
than
do
just for
agree.
it to bang up, another 50% or something like this, because that's
Yeah.
unsustainable, isn't it? It's probably going to come down then, at least 25%. And so, yeah. I mean, if, for instance, on £1,000, if it goes up by 12% in the next 2 weeks, then there's like 120 pounds earned.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
if that's in, say, like a week or something like this, then it's quite attractive.
Yeah. I do have something else I wanted to show you. For example, we had this drop, as you outlined nicely, and of course, things go down much faster than they go up. I mean, for example, if you build something, a building, for example, it's very easy to destroy it compared to building it. So things just go down faster than they go up. It's a universal principle. So, and if I and as I said, we had this drop now recently, and this is an index of crypto and Bitcoin, especially, and you can see it's called Fear and Greed Index. So telling
Hmm.
when people are usually more greedy and when they are very fearful. And as you outlined also nicely, that you usually want to buy into fear and sell into greed. And now, as you can see, we are in extreme fear. And this is a chart right here down here. And as you can see, we were here in this accumulation phase here at the very base. And we now moved up a bit recently. And we were down here in the tens and are now a bit up again. So this is an indicator which I like very much actually, and which gives me a pretty confidence that we will move maybe slowly but steadily higher over the next few months and maybe even years. Maybe it's going to take a while, but I do like that people are currently fearful. Because I mean,
I love a bit of fear. I try
yeah.
I try and instill it in my viewers every single day.
I know, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so do our masters. So we're all in it together. Yeah, but all joking aside, that is a pretty fear-based depiction of
Yes.
The Bitcoin market presently. I
Mm-hmm.
think, this is what we spoke about last time, that I think it will go all the way down into the bottom of the red before we start to raise up again, because I don't think the confidence has been shattered in our economies, anything like that it is going to. On the front page of one of our tabloids today, I
Mm-hmm.
see that get ready for several more weeks in isolation. And so, they're not saying, well, we think, it's going to be 3 months, because they don't want to hit you hard like that. But they're just gently telling you that, you've got a few more weeks. And then after a few more weeks, they'll tell you you've got a few more weeks. And I think it's going to go on like this. And I think that, we've at least got 4 weeks in isolation. And then they'll start to let certain a percentage of people back out again, and they will open certain businesses and let a few people in here and there, like gyms and
Yeah.
all that sort of thing. And Trump is what strikes me as really bizarre is, like, Trump seems to think that sporting events were on the top level of desire for the American people. He spent like a good 20 minutes talking about that we're going to get our hockey teams back in the stadium. We're going to get our football guys back there. We're going to get all you guys back out supporting your favorite team, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, really? Who really gives a fuck about football? We just want, maybe for the oppression to be taken off, and we can fucking choose what we want to do. It's not all we're going to be rushing to the fucking football stadium when this is over. But you see, this is the whole
Maybe
thing.
you won't.
Yeah, but I don't
Yeah.
know how many people would. But this is the whole
Yeah,
thing
sure.
about bread and circus that the Romans used to feed their plebeian, because that's it. You see, they get them into this whole mindset of bread and circus. We're being fed at this moment in time. There's plenty of food. There's no shortage. But the only thing we seem to be lacking, the only thing else to make us perfectly happy, is that we've not got our circus. We've not got our football. We've not got our hockey. We've not got our basketball. So give us that back or we'll fucking revolt. And so he's promising, don't worry. We'll give you your football back. We'll give you your baseball back. And then, they seem to think that that's all we want. Maybe that's what most of the plebeian do really want. Let's see. But
Maybe, yes. I don't
uh,
know.
yeah, I mean, I think of course, as the weeks go on, then it's going to cost a lot more money, and with each week that does go by, then anybody that knows anything about economy are going to be thinking, how's the government going to be getting this back? Going to be increasing the interest rates. They're going to be stopping any perks. And, they're going to be imposing many more things. You see, like fines. They're gonna put the fines up for not having seatbelts. They're gonna put the fines up for speeding, and we're gonna
Could
be
be, yes.
paying
Could
for
be.
this. We're gonna be paying through the fucking nose.
In the long term,
Nobody's
yes.
getting away with this.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
but the monetary supply is going to increase, so people have to spend more. Yeah, sure.
yeah, so the interest rates, are going to be going up, and so it's going to be making our money less valuable.
Yes.
Because they've printed more, then there's more currency in the public's hands. So therefore, that's going to decrease the value, and so we're having the value decreased. Because they are piling so much into the economic system, but also then they're going to be putting the interest rates up, which is going to be a double whammy, and then they're going to be increasing the fines and all this sort of thing, and pulling away the perks and the tax relief and this, that, and the other. Of course, it's basic math, and so it'd be great to be able to chat with an economist. If any of you guys, any of
Yeah,
my viewers, are
sure.
economists and want to come on and have a chat with us, and that make good viewing, I think.
It would be
And if you
awesome.
could,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, and if
Yeah,
somebody could give us their opinion. I mean, no pressure. Nobody knows how the world's going to go, but just to be able to speculate. I'm speculating. Conrad's speculating. Nobody's going to
sure.
hold it against us. We just don't know. And
Yeah, yeah,
so we're just talking about it and bringing an awareness to people. Here's an option, people. If you've got a bit of spare cash, then buy now.
yeah.
If you want to be a little bit more greedy, so to speak, then wait until the fear gets even worse. I
Take a
have,
chance. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I have I mean, I'm in no hurry. I think I'll give it another week because I said to you last time, I said, probably about 10 days, 2 weeks, or something like that to see, something happening. So we've gone up a little bit now, but I still think that, we could go down a little bit, and I'd be
Yeah,
much
of
more
course we could.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be much more happy if it went down
Hmm.
50% from where it is now into that red. I wouldn't be any more greedy than that. I wouldn't wait for it to get on rock bottom. I think I'd go in there. I'd go in with another £700, and I'd be happy at that.
Hmm. Just jumping on a thought you had just now regarding monetary supply increasing, I'm just going to pull up something, and that's actually a reason why I also think a Bitcoin will succeed in the long term, and that is because Bitcoin has a fixed supply. So there are only to be 21 million Bitcoin, as you can see right here.
Yeah.
This number, 21 million Bitcoin are the maximum. So you can't just print Bitcoin endlessly like you can the dollar. It's simple. It's similar to gold, having almost a fixed supply. So that is a thing I like, of course, very much, and a reason why I also think that it will increase in value in the long term. Yeah.
So let me ask you a couple of questions in relation to that then.
Hmm.
First and foremost, why is there a cap on it?
Hmm.
What is it about the way in which Bitcoin is produced that doesn't allow it to keep going on indefinitely?
Yeah. It's called mining. How blocks. So a blockchain is behind Bitcoin. It's a blockchain, meaning that it's a chain of blocks. So each block has transactions in it, and these blocks, these transactions are mined by physical miners, computers basically. So these computers mine these Bitcoin, and per block, a certain number of Bitcoin are released basically to the miner, so that they have some value for their energy they invested into mining. So similar to gold, people mine gold to get gold, of course, and then to sell it on the market, for example. So
Right.
similar to mining Bitcoin, it's mining gold, and there is a halving event. It's called. It's when a block is halved basically. So it hasn't it happened for I think 2 times already, and actually in 1 month there's going to be the third I think halving event, meaning that per block uh, the half transactions of prior to the halving are going to be mined per block, meaning that the supply of Bitcoin is basically going to be halved. And that usually, as I said, it has a fixed supply. So if even less Bitcoin are available to the market uh, uh, because of a simple supply and demand, it's going to increase in the long term.
So
Doesn't
why?
mean that on the day of the halving event, it will jump a lot. So, um, uh, but in the long term, I do think it will have a significant impact on the value of Bitcoin. And if I pull up the chart again, I think the last mining halving was I don't know the exact date, but I do think it was around this time here in 2016. 4 years ago, approximately, and every 4 years, approximately, there's going to be another halving event. So that is now in 2020.
So,
So yeah.
I'm not grasping this halving. Who
Hmm.
halves it? How does it halve? And why is
Hmm.
it necessary for the currency to halve? Because if it keeps halving, then at some stage, at some stage, there's going to be so little bitcoins around. There isn't going to be enough for the whole world. So, how does this halving come about? It's a bit like, from what I'm gathering, if, for
Hmm.
instance, you've got like 1,000 tons of gold for the world's economy, then if you take 500 tons of it away and just make it disappear, then that's what's happening to Bitcoin. How is that happening?
So it's basically programmed into the blockchain, meaning that at a certain number of blocks, there's going to be a halving so that less Bitcoin are distributed to the mainstream, to the blockchain. So, for example, if I go to the exchange and buy Bitcoin, then these are Bitcoin that are already mined and then bought by some exchange, and then they are sold to you. But these miners are the ones who produce who produce these Bitcoin. And if I show you a chart, for example, which predicts the long-term growth of Bitcoin, something like this, then it will also show you that in the long term, the value will stabilize, so that very little Bitcoin are mined. So the inflation is very little in the long term, and it will basically just be a store of value, similar to gold, maintaining its value in the long term. I know it's a bit complicated, and I don't I have not grasped it totally, but I hope I talked about it in a way that made sense in some shape or form. But
Yeah,
of
I
course,
mean,
you can ask some questions.
yeah. So do you think there is enough Bitcoin if the world's economy crashes
Hmm.
and all of the nations need to use a cryptocurrency? Do you think that Bitcoin would be the cryptocurrency, or do you think, you see, this cryptocurrency, it was self-generating, wasn't it? Nobody actually made this, and nobody has any control over it.
Not really. Yes, only the miners would have control because they mine these Bitcoin.
And so
So
when you
yeah,
say mine, is that,
yeah.
the production of it? How are they producing it
Mhm.
then? Are they buying it? Is that how it's mined?
No, it's not. It's not buying each block, which is going to be mined. Uh, well, we're going a bit technical now, but it has nodes, and it's basically these miners have to find the key to these blocks, and that takes time and that takes energy. So it's a computer basically which mines these Bitcoin, and these computers need to find these keys to access these blocks to then distribute a certain number of Bitcoin to the market, which then can be bought.
Right. It sounds a little bit like, say,
Mm-hmm.
like somewhere out there in the cosmos, there's this secret currency or secret energy, and the computer is juggling numbers like quantum computers, juggling numbers, maybe like dark matter or dark energy. There's energy all around us, but we haven't yet worked out how to capitalize on that energy. But it's speculated that the tiniest, say, like centimeter square of energy could evaporate all the oceans on the planet. That's how much energy is there. So
Mm-hmm.
if we can tap into that, is that a little bit like mining?
Ooh, uh, I think
Sorry, I've
it's a
gone all
bit.
philosophical on you now. And
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a bit more on the metaphysical side, but maybe it has some similarities. Maybe yes.
right,
Uh,
and so
yeah.
okay then, if there's enough Bitcoin to go around and serve everybody's financial needs, what do you think is going to happen when the world's currencies crash? What, if they want a central currency, and
Mm-hmm.
it's already been discerned now that there isn't a single country on the planet that, well, barely anyway, there's probably a couple that are printing money on the gold standard. The gold standard, went out at various times in varying countries. And so it
Yeah.
isn't premised on anything of any real value. And so
Yes.
what we're using now doesn't have any value at all.
Yes.
And it's so open for abuse because each country can keep
It is
printing
endlessly.
until the
Yes.
bubble bursts, and then the whole world just blows up financially. And so where do you think that the governments of the world are going to go in
Yeah.
relation to
Mm-hmm.
cryptocurrency? I mean, if you can't create a cryptocurrency because it can't be controlled by a bank, because if it could be, then they would have created them already. And so if it can't be controlled, then they must have to tap into the ones that are already originally there. Yeah.
It of course can be created, but and of course there are many cryptocurrencies that have been created on a blockchain. So
But
you
can they
can
be
of course,
controlled? Can they be
yeah,
controlled then?
yes, and that is the very
Ah,
difference, because these cryptocurrencies then can be controlled, and that is one of the key points about Bitcoin and why it is different from, if I just pull it up again, from all of these other bitcoins or cryptocurrencies. There's a big difference because Bitcoin is actually the only one which has no central authority.
right.
So these all were created by some people, by some group, for example, which most of the time have a large number of these cryptos, similar to, of course, a stock, a company. They have at least 50% or more of the stock to of course access it. And yeah, similar to that, these cryptos were created by people, but as I said, in Bitcoin, there's no central authority. Yeah.
Okay, so that's probably where I'm getting my wires crossed, because I was led to believe that the cryptocurrency, at least Bitcoin, can't be
Mhm.
controlled by any bank or any nefarious mobster. And so
Well,
it's
it can't be. At least Bitcoin can't be, but banks could create their own cryptocurrency, and then they could even inflate it if they said there is no cap,
yeah,
no maximum supply on this
yes.
cryptocurrency. Then and then it's all over
Okay.
again. similar
So
to the
it
dollar.
seems to me then, other than Bitcoin, all the
Mhm.
other cryptocurrencies, they could be just like different nations' currency,
Mhm.
created out of thin air and
Yes.
manipulated by the banks. And so, for instance, like Tesos going up by 20%, that could be a fabrication by whoever owns Tesos. For instance, if a bank owns Tesos and they want to give the impression that that currency is doing really well, then they will buy their own currency back. And so
Sure.
then it would look like, whoa, it's gone up by 20%. That would increase confidence in people. And then they would jump on the bandwagon and then they would take it up really when the initial rise was artificial because it was fabricated by those motherfuckers in these positions. Is that a
Exactly.
fair appraisal?
Yes. Yeah, I do think so. Yes.
Right. And so reasonably then, we would expect anybody to know anything about finances that they wouldn't want to touch with a barge pole anything other than Bitcoin.
I do agree. Yeah.
Mm.
Yes.
And so it's
And because you said how Bitcoin could affect the global economy regarding currencies, there is a book out there called The Bitcoin Standard, which proposes basically that there's a possibility that, of course, if banks in the whole world will be sane at some point, maybe they will, I don't know, but if they are going to be sane at some point, then they might consider using Bitcoin uh, similar to the gold standard. So they have a certain um, uh, they have a certain number of Bitcoin, and then they can use these Bitcoin to back their currency. Yeah.
hmm. So I mean the question is for me, if the world economy crashes
Hmm.
and nobody is interested anymore in fiat money and they're looking for something of substance, then the only option they have if they want to retain their individual currency is to base it on gold. So America, for instance, they would have to have an assessment of their gold via important people in the financial world. They would have to go, for instance, and visit Fort Knox and do tests on their gold, i.e., drilling it to see if it actually is gold or tungsten, because most of the stuff that they're even speculating that it's not even gold, it's tungsten covered in gold. And
Okay.
so you have to
Okay.
drill every fucking bar to see what gradient of gold it is, and then lock it all up. And there must be like a whole multitude of nations with keys. You'd need like 100 keys for the door of this vault to make sure nobody could sneak in there one night and replace it with gold covered lead. I mean, it's all getting proper fucked up because the world has been so deceptive, and they have pulled off this huge heist on the whole world by slowly taking away the gold standard from any currency. And
Hmm.
because it was accepted by the people, then it's kind of like, whoa, the banksters or the mobsters or the world manipulators, they have all the gold and they're rubbing their hands together because the world is still ticking over just as it was before, on paper, on the illusion, on fiat money. And they are printing the fiat money and they don't have to back any of it on gold. So if the whole economy crashes to the floor of the world, then nobody's going to be asking for their gold because it isn't based on it.
Yes, and they still have their gold if they really if they decided then to to make a currency which is backed by gold. So they
Yeah.
still have an asset which will have value. Yes.
And so then, I mean, what I'm trying to work out is what's the likelihood of the world going cryptocurrency? How would that work? Because it could work from all of those below Bitcoin, because as you just said, they can manipulate it, and they can add value to it, and they can take value away. So it's no different to any paper currency. And so I would think, well, nobody would want to get involved in that because it's into the fire and into the frying pan. It's exactly the same scenario. What investors, I would have thought, would find much more attractive is to
Hmm.
have no relationship to a bank whatsoever, just entirely dependent on world confidence in the currency.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that is Bitcoin, which you just laid out. Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
Could
I
there
mean,
be
I don't
more
know.
bitcoins created? I mean, on the same vein, um, because presently, then Bitcoin, if it's the only one that's not subject to being manipulated, then it
Mhm.
seems to me that it'd be really, really popular. And so, of course, anything that's popular, everybody wants to fabricate. So, could that be fabricated? And could there be Bitcoin 2, Bitcoin 3, Bitcoin 55?
There is already. There is already. You can see, for example, here. There's this cash thing, this Bitcoin Cash. Then there's Bitcoin SV, and yeah. So there is already these twos and threes and of Bitcoin. So yeah, I
Right.
mean,
And how do they
it
work
has already
differently?
happened, but none of them have really succeeded in the long term. Of course, they are still around because they are subject to speculation. People still want to make money off of them, so I don't think it's a yeah, yeah.
Hmm. So, I mean, just putting in another analogy,
Hmm.
I see one of those currencies down there, a bit like the Awaken Brave channel. There
Yeah.
seems to be a market for everything. My market is tiny in compared or comparison to others. Like others may enjoy, like uh, the appraisal of, say, like Tezos or Bitcoin, whereby loads of followers follow those. But there's always going to be the alternative market that will follow other platforms, and so this seems very reasonable to me. Otherwise, you just wouldn't have all of these varying bitcoins down there. Why
Yeah.
why is there so many? Actually, how many is there? How many cryptocurrencies are there on the planet, and how fast are they growing?
Yeah, currently they are around 5,311 here on CoinMarketCap. They are listed. I don't know if there is a graph which shows how fast they are growing. I don't think there is, but you can see, you can scroll down here, and I mean, 5,000 cryptocurrencies. I didn't. I think I know maybe 1% of these cryptocurrencies, but I don't know what these are, and that they are all certain projects uh, which basically want to improve an aspect of Bitcoin and say that they are better because of this certain aspect. Yeah, I mean, of course, there can be money made in the long term, especially if they really have have something of value. But I don't think that they will succeed um, in the time span that Bitcoin will do, in my opinion, which can be to I mean over many decades. I don't think these cryptocurrencies will be around that long. These
No,
others.
and so if the first one was Bitcoin, and that's the
Hmm.
most popular, and
Yeah.
that's the most valuable, then it seems to me, unless something goes drastically wrong with that one's going to be the one that's going to continue. And so, is there a list? I suppose there is in value, say like a tiered value chart of who's second, who's third, who's fourth, who's fifth in relation to the price of any cryptocurrency.
You can, if I just go back to, you can filter it for a market cap, for price, volume, circling supply, and so on. So market cap would be the most valuable one, and these are already
When you say
aligned in
market
this
cap,
way.
I asked you this question last time. You're
Yeah.
talking about the amount of cryptocurrency market capital there is.
Yes. For example, similar to the stock market, if a stock has a supply of 1,000 stocks, which are all valued $1, so the market cap would be $1,000.
Yeah.
So similar to this, it is here in Bitcoin. Yes.
Hmm. Okay. And so I think we've covered probably most of the stuff.
Yeah.
We have sort of drawn uh, analogies to how this is working in a similar sort of way to banks, how they are susceptible to manipulation, which of course is going to undermine confidence,
Yes.
because the all different sorts of machinations could be um, brought about to increase the value superficially, when there's no reality to it. But then with Bitcoin, it's more stable because it can't be superficially, artificially inflated. It entirely depends on real investors. Yeah.
Only in the short term, maybe there is some manipulation, and of course there already has been. But in the long term, I do agree. Yes.
Mm. And so, is there anything else then that you could inform us about that I haven't mentioned?
Yes, just to tell you about these sites, this is called a coin market cap if you want to look it up. This is called Crypto Fear and Greed Index. And lastly, there is a site called Look into Bitcoin. On here, you have a certain number of charts. They all value other aspects on a technical basis. But for example, if I would show you this, it's called stock to flow model. It's very simple. Of course, you can go into detail, but it shows you the cycles and how they are going through certain colors, and these colors show you other aspects of its cycle. So we now would be, for example, here in this purple to red phase, which then usually, as you can see, kicks off a strong run to the upside. It has done so in the past, so most likely it will do so in the future. And usually then it tops out here on this flat line. And this flat line, as you can see, would be here around $10,000. It shoots above it most of the time, but this would then be around 2022. So that would be a reasonable target, and actually also a pretty strong price increase. Yeah.
Right. And so that chart we're seeing there, is that actually of Bitcoin? Because it looks like this.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And so then overall, there's a trend that's going up, 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 up. And even though we've had a little bit of a downturn, the chances are that it's going to continue to go up. What potentially could stop that from happening? Uh, okay. So we could have yeah, I mean, like what could stop it? I mean, we get glitches or downs when
Mhm.
people lose confidence, but
Yes.
the confidence is lost over a few days or weeks or whatever. But then the reality has to come back that, you
Mhm.
know, the currency is still there. It has a value. And if people invest in it, if you invest your money back in it and everybody else does, then of course everybody benefits. It's a bit like a pyramid scheme. Pyramid schemes are
Similar, maybe.
beautiful
Yes.
because as long as you keep paying in, they're going to keep paying out. And so
Yeah.
with new investors along the bottom of the pyramid, everybody that invests along the bottom then is pushing up the previous investors to the top, to the top, to the top, towards the payout point, which is the apex. And so if everybody keeps investing, then everybody keeps getting pushed up, and it's a never-ending cycle. So it's wonderful, and people can earn a lot of money. Pyramid thing isn't a scam as long as the confidence is still there. The only time it becomes a scam is if someone throws a spanner in the works and takes the confidence of the investor away.
Yeah,
Would you, would,
and there's no value most of the time behind these pyramid schemes, and of course there is value in Bitcoin regarding its transaction, for example.
I mean, the only value in a pyramid scheme is the investors that put money into it. And as soon as people
Yeah.
stop putting money into it, then there's no pyramid.
Yeah.
And so there's value here. And so that value will always stay there because there's a finite amount of Bitcoin that is there. And
Yes.
even that finite, well, it can't get any bigger, but it can get smaller, like you say.
Yeah.
It can, keep halving. And so therefore there is a value that's always going to be worth something no matter what you do. And so it seems to me that it's there's no real disadvantage to it over a long period.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And so, well, in the short term, then, with the confidence of the world's economy and people, getting agitated, and people are speaking about civil unrest, and governments are getting ready for civil unrest, I think, America will be, ready for it. France is speaking about it's ready for it. And there's probably lots of other countries that I'm not aware of that, are just getting pushed too far, and they're not standing for the bullshit. And so occasions like that could cause momentary downturns, but the countries can't be with civil unrest forever. There has to be, stabilization, which is brought about again after a few months, or even if it goes on a year. But after that, the currency has to get back on its feet, and the confidence will be there again. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
You asked the question, how Bitcoin could fail, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it works through the internet. So, for example, if the internet would get shut down, then I think Bitcoin will also fail in a certain way. But I don't think that will happen anytime soon. Yeah.
Well, again, if it does get shut down, only temporarily, because the whole world depends on it, so it has to, come back online again. You see, if it
Yeah.
gets shut down, then nobody, then of course their Bitcoin disappears. It disappears into the ether, because if you've not got a computer to look at it and check it and make it a reality, then it isn't there. And if the internet never ever came on, then of course all the Bitcoin's lost, because it's only a fiction in any case, unless we believe in it. It's a bit like money. It's only a fiction unless we believe in it. And it's a bit like the whole world. I was speaking to my elder brother today. The whole universe is a fiction, and it only exists because we believe in it.
It's all about belief, yes.
Yeah, and it's absolutely incredible, isn't it? And so what needs to happen then? People need to believe in cryptocurrency more, and I think they will, the more they have a lack of confidence in their individual countries and the world economy. And it seems to me that Bitcoin, being top of the list, is going to be set for continued growth. And so I'm going to make my investment, I think, in about a week's time. And then we can, make videos like this from time to time to monitor what's happening. And if anybody viewing, there's quite a few people that have made investments in Bitcoin. I know that. And if there's anybody that knows anything about the economy, if anybody can help us out with some of the speculative questions and answers that we've been coming up with, then, we're all ears for that. Because, I mean, bearing in mind that nobody knows the answers. It's all speculation as far as I can see in the economic world, as well as the future of humanity. Completely, utterly speculative.
Yeah.
And we could all just disappear as soon as we stop believing in one another.
So, I do this like this. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Brilliant then. So if there's nothing else you want to add to this, then we'll wrap this up. And
I think we'll wrap this up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope it's been informative. It has for me. I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your time, Conrad.
I've enjoyed it as well. Yeah, sure.
And we'll keep in touch. And
Hmm.
I'll speak to you again in a week to see what the state of affairs is.
Hmm.
This grid, this will tell me what the trend is, and I can see what my investment is, how it's performing from this grid, or which is the best grid for me to just check on a daily basis how my investment's going.
On a daily basis, I mean, you can go to TradingView using BTC USD to see the price, for example, and where it is at currently. But if you would look at it, for example, on a weekly perspective, then
Yeah,
I do
week's
think
probably more reasonable.
that this stock to flow model, for example, is very helpful here on Look into Bitcoin.
So how do I get there again? What do I type in
Yeah,
the
you
toolbar?
type in look into into bitcoin.com, and then you find here learning charts and indicator alerts. You go to charts, and then you have the all of these charts here, and then down here you can see stock to flow model. And you could also use, for example, this. It shows you when to buy, basically, and we are now in this buying zone, so also very helpful. But I would use this stock to flow model because it has a time aspect regarding these colors here.
Right, and where's that greed chart? Fear and greed.
Yeah, fear and greed, crypto fear and greed. In that index, it's called crypto fear and greed. And yeah, it just it is down here, and you can go to max, and then you see yeah, just for example here, when the fear was most prominent in the crypto space, for example here, from November to December 2018, we talked about it. That was down here, and you can see what happened afterwards. A strong increase in price, so that is a thing I would expect. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Well, that's very insightful. So thanks a lot, mate.
Yeah, and just here is my YouTube channel. If any of you want to go there, I do update on a regular basis. Yeah, yeah.
Brilliant. Enlightened Trading.
Enlightened
Um,
Trading.
is that .com? Is it?
I mean, it's on YouTube. It's not
Right.
.com.
Okay. So just Enlightened Trading on
Yeah.
YouTube then. Okay. Brilliant. Yes. Marvelous. Now, I don't know whether you want this video. I can send you this file if you want to put it on your channel,
Hmm.
because I think
Sure.
maybe it may be useful to people who are not too familiar with it to have somebody asking probably, basic questions is
Yeah, I would
helpful for
like that. Yeah.
lots of people. So I'll send you
Yeah.
the file in any case, and you can
Hmm.
do what you want with it. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Thank
look
you.
forward to chatting to you next time then, mate.
Okay. Yeah. Same. I see
Thank you
you
very
around.
much. Hasta la vista.
Yeah. Bye.
Cheers,
Bye.
Conrad. I think you have to take your screen down before we can end this.